Today my guest is David Chappell. David, how are you, sir?
Good. Great to be here.
I've been a fan of your work for a long time, and I've noticed that you're talking about the cloud a lot these days. Is that true?
Very true, yes.
What's going on with the cloud?
A lot of things. A lot of things. The world is changing.
Yep.
This is an enormous transition in our world. Private clouds are appearing in data centers, and they're interesting. But the real news, I think, is public clouds, where we're all going to be in 5-10 years tops, I would suggest.
Can we spend a minute just defining the definition between a private cloud and a public cloud?
Yeah, sure. The challenge here is nobody agrees. The way I would define it, which I think a majority would agree with, is that there's this technology called Infrastructure as a Service, IaaS, pronounced IaaS. All it means really is you go to a website, you ask for a VM, and you get the VM deployed automatically on some server. VMs on demand, running usually on pooled hardware. If I do IaaS in my own data center, we call that a private cloud. If I do IaaS in an external data center, we call that a public cloud. And so from a technical sense, they're both called clouds because they both use IaaS. Now, both do more than just IaaS. Private clouds add other things, public clouds add a lot more. But I would suggest that a simple way to think about private and public cloud is that the core defining technology is IaaS. If it's in your own data center, it's private. If it's external data center, it's public.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good definition. It simplifies things, I think, a little bit.
It does, arguably too much, because there are hosters, for example, who offer what they would say are hosted private clouds running in their data centers, but on hardware devoted just to you. So it gets messy.
Right.
But for many situations, arguably a majority, my simple definition, I think, works.
This is a message that I give a lot to my customers, which is that when somebody talks to you about they have a cloud service, you need to press them and find out what is their definition of a cloud
Every
service.
single time. And in my experience, IT leaders who run data centers have all begun calling their data centers private clouds.
Right, because it's a hot buzzword.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
And there's how's the adoption of the cloud? Are people rushing to it? I'm reading about the paper, or what's your experience?
Private cloud in larger companies makes very good sense. And so we're seeing that adoption not enormously fast, but fast enough. Public cloud, which means things like Windows Azure, Amazon Web Services, in the context we're discussing here, is growing really quite rapidly. For some very good reasons. It offers lower cost, potentially, offers flexibility, it offers interesting services, both to enterprises and to software vendors, ISVs, building applications and storing data in those data centers.
There's still a lot of room for growth. What's keeping people from adopting the cloud?
The public cloud specifically.
The public cloud, I should be more specific.
And the answer is a number of things, but I have spoken with IT leaders in particular at enterprises around the world. And every single conversation, every single time, every city, every country, the first question is security. How in the world can we be sure our stuff will be secure? But the thing is, the question isn't really about security. It's about trust.
Right.
They have to learn to trust the public cloud provider, Amazon, Microsoft, whoever. And the reason is that they can't go in the data centers and verify security. They won't let you. You got to trust them. And so building that trust is the biggest thing. It takes time for many, many organizations.
When is that going to happen? I mean, there was a time when people wouldn't do online banking for exactly the same reason.
And
that barrier seems to have come down.
Yeah, it's a really good example. The truth is that we have a lack of trust in the unfamiliar. But once it's familiar, online banking, credit cards across the internet, whatever, we build that trust and it becomes just part of our world. For example, ask yourself, what is the world's scariest, most dangerous technology? Is it nuclear weapons? Is it some computer virus going to destroy our machines? No. The world's most dangerous, scariest technology is Windows Update. And the reason is that every Patch Tuesday, Microsoft puts in your operating system whatever code it wants. And we just say, sure.
Because we trust them.
That's right. Maybe we test the code to make sure something breaks. But nobody tests the code to make sure that, I don't know, it doesn't steal all your data the next day. We trust Microsoft. Suppose that this evening, all of Microsoft was purchased by the government of North Korea. What would you do? You would turn off Windows Update, I hope. The level of trust we already have in Windows Update far exceeds what Microsoft, for example, asks of its customers with Windows Azure. And so your example of online banking is perfect. because that was terrifying 10 years ago, and now we do it every day. I think within 5, 10 years, public clouds will be as trusted, as unremarkable as Windows Update is today.
It makes sense. I don't know that, I won't say that every public cloud is 100% secure, but it's certainly true that not every data center is 100% secure. So moving your data from your own data center out to the cloud isn't really a question of, is it secure? The question is it more secure than what I have today?
Or at least as secure.
At least as.
The thing is, if you talk to the guy who runs a data center in some enterprise, and you say to him or her, you know, these public cloud data centers, Amazon, Azure, they're probably more secure than your data center, because these companies have a huge stake. They can hire the best people. They have massive scale. They have lots of money. An outage or security breach means their business is gone. They really care. They're almost certainly better than you are. In my experience, these guys, by and large, in their heart, they know you're right. They know public clouds are more secure than they are, but they still can't give it up. It's emotional. It's also pragmatic. They say, this is my job, right? I lose this, and what am I doing tomorrow? It's outsourcing. And outsourcing always scares IT leaders.
Jobs do change, especially in the IT field.
People who do not like change should not work in the technology business.
Absolutely agree. So security is a big one, and in some ways it's valid. Security certainly is a big risk. Anything else that's keeping people from moving? The second one, second question you always get is about compliance. If I trust these public cloud platforms, Azure, Amazon, and I put my stuff there, can I still meet all the regulations I'm required to comply with in my company, in my country, sorry. And the answer there is complicated, because there are different regulations across different vertical markets, financial services, government, healthcare, and so on. And the rules vary across countries. Right. So the result is this matrix of rules and regulations, which honestly no one really understands, because they were defined before cloud computing appeared. Sure.
So even knowing whether you're in compliance can be hard. And one more thing about that. There are countries like the US where data centers are in the country, the rules are more well known, compliance can be dealt with. My experience is around the world, if people actually look at this and work on it, they can do more than they thought they could with their data for compliance. But there are other countries like Germany, which at the moment does not have big cloud data centers from Amazon or Azure, the big players. And they have a very restrictive set of regulations. So this stuff can be very hard to do in some countries and not near as hard in others. It varies a lot.
I wonder if I'm a multinational company, is it better to outsource that compliance liability to a cloud provider who maybe understands it, or at least can shift the blame off to an Amazon or an Azure or a Google?
If you can. If your regulators will
let you. Does the industry allow that?
Not generally, because the regulators fundamentally are saying, you corporate heads, it's your neck on the line here.
Okay.
You are responsible for following these things. There's some mixture here, but I don't see that applied as a solution much, sadly.
Anything else?
About resistance to public cloud?
Yes.
We've discussed the big things. They are security, which is really trust, compliance, which is doable, although challenging in some cases. We've talked about the fear of job loss, which is also real in many people.
I would suggest it's a job change more than job loss, because there are a lot of jobs in the cloud or managing data in the cloud.
Well, it depends who you are. Right? If you're an IT admin and you are, for example, an Exchange admin, your skill set's all about installing, administering, managing Exchange server on premises. I would suggest that career has 5 years to run tops with those skills, because Exchange goes to the cloud very quickly.
Sure.
But again, anybody who thinks their current skill set will see them through an entire career and is less than 63 years old, in America at least, is wrong.
They probably chose the wrong major.
Yeah, you got to learn new things all the time.
Yeah. If you don't like learning, this is the wrong business to be in. Totally agree. All right, that's a lot of good information. Where can people find more about David Chappell?
If they want, davidchappell.com, 2 P's and 2 L's. Do not confuse me with Dave Chappell. His name has an E on the end, hence the French pronunciation, Chappell. My name has no E. The British pronunciation is Chappell, which is where I come from, my family comes from. So don't look to davechappell.com, but davidchappell.com has lots of papers and videos and my blog and other things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure to talk with you. It's a pleasure appearing on Technology and Friends.